to the current demographic index. The world population is about 7.21 billion people, with about 233 babies being born every minute. The world's going to get to a stage where there are going to be two distinct people on the planet. Those who accept the mark of the beast, the image of the beast and the number of his name, and those who have the seal of the living God. They are both dealing with individuals' characters. And we're going to see that there's going to be a very powerful vehicle used by the second kingdom to promote a false form of worship. And we're also going to see that God's people are going to be very small in number who are going to stand.
I have the power to make you beautiful, even breathtaking.
Corporations have spent years studying the best ways of marketing their products and setting trends in society. And the best way to sway public opinion is to use the most popular iconic figures. Spending 5 years of my life studying media was a good eye-opener to myself. And it still is interesting to see how society can be gently steered into an idea that they once thought was bizarre or abnormal. The man who taught corporations to manipulate the masses was a nephew of Sigmund Freud, whose name was Edward Bernays. His clients were Calvin Coolidge, Procter & Gamble, CBS, the American Tobacco Company, and General Electric. And he wrote a book in 1928 titled Propaganda, where he pioneered the scientific technique of shaping and manipulating public opinion, which he called engineering of consent. He said, "We are governed, our minds molded, our tastes formed, our ideas suggested, largely by men we have never heard of. The conscious and intelligent manipulation of the organized habits and opinions of the masses is an important element in democratic society. Those who manipulate this unseen mechanism of society constitute an invisible government which is the true ruling powers of our country. Propaganda is the executive arm of the invisible government. Modern propaganda is a consistent, enduring effort to create or shape events to influence the relations of the public to an enterprise, idea, or group. If we understand the mechanism and motives of the group mind, is it not possible to control and regiment the masses according to our will without their knowing about it? So what is the most effective tool to manipulate the world? The American motion picture is the greatest unconscious carrier of propaganda in the world today. It is a great distributor for ideas and opinions. The motion picture can standardize the ideas and habits of a nation. You may have heard people say, just because I watch a violent film doesn't mean to say I'm going to kill someone. But propagandist Edward Bernays knew that Hollywood was a powerful tool of the US government to influence human behavior of mass populations, and throughout most of this study we will see how this will be accomplished. Reincarnation is a belief that can be traced right back to the philosophy of Satan in the Garden of Eden, that man doesn't really die at death, he just goes through different cycles where he can transform into an animal, a plant, and this was once seen as relegated to Hinduism, but Hollywood is now promoting this pagan philosophy in the film Cloud Atlas. In the children's animation Paranorman, it not only subtly introduced a gay character called Mitch, the first homosexual character in an animated film, but it also taught children that there is nothing wrong with speaking to the dead, and don't let people judge you if you are different. But even in reality, adults like Angelina Jolie believes she can communicate with the dead, where she thinks her dead mother is helping her raise their children. But Hollywood has a very dangerous reputation of distorting history and manipulating people's realities. In the film Imitation Game about British intelligence during the Second World War, though the actors may be praised for their convincing roles, it wasn't according to actual events. In the UK, a young generation of 13 years and plus are being discouraged to study history. But if you have no idea of the past, you'll have no clue about the present. And a very interesting article in London's Daily Telegraph newspaper, dated Tuesday, November the 5th, 2014, was written by a journalist who was concerned about the distortion and fabrication of history in Hollywood films for edutainment purposes. The problem with Hollywood's glib approach is that audiences will develop a completely skewed and often false knowledge of the past. What filmmakers are effectively doing is implanting fake memories in our collective consciousness. That will clearly have an extremely damaging effect, not just on our understanding of the past, but also how we explain it to ourselves, and therefore how we regard ourselves and how we act as nations and peoples. The same article shows how Mel Gibson is a great distorter of history in his films that are very anti-British. If I, Agent McQueen, did not spend years studying history, it would have been impossible to put the two kingdoms together. For the Second Kingdom, the United States will use Hollywood to condition people's minds to accept a global government, unite and accept the false worship called the Mark of the Beast.
But if you resist the system, you starve yourself. If you fight against it, it is you who will bleed. I know you will stand with me, with us, with all of us, together, as one. Panem today, Panem tomorrow, Panem forever.
The only way our society can survive is for each of you to claim your rightful place.
The future belongs to those who know where they belong. The system removes the threat of anyone exercising their independent will. Divergents threaten that system. It won't be safe until they're removed.
From great suffering came a solution. Communities.
Injected.
Serene, beautiful places where disorder became harmony. When people have the freedom to choose, they choose wrong.
My fellow master builders.
Hello.
Lord business plans to end the world as we know it. There is yet one hope. The special has arisen.
I know what you're thinking. He is the least qualified person to lead us. And you are right.
You may wonder, what does a children's animation have to do with social engineering? When researchers were carefully looking at the billboards in the children's movie, children were subliminally being taught to integrate and to conform, so not even children are spared. But Even at the Doors encourages people to study not just history and current political events, but the Bible. For the last conflict on earth will be over your character. For Jesus said, "And when you stand praying, forgive, if you have aught or any issue against any, that your Father also which is in heaven may forgive you your trespasses. But if ye do not forgive, neither will your Father which is in heaven forgive your trespasses." In my experience, I have realized forgiveness is the most controversial issue in God's church. But Hollywood totally rejects the gospel and encourages domestic warfare. The key words you will see in these trailers are revenge and vengeance.
Here's a little holiday greeting I've been wanting to send to the Mandarin. I just didn't know how to phrase it until now. My name is Tony Stark, and I'm not afraid of you. I know you're a coward. So I've decided that you just died, pal. I'm gonna come get the body. There's no politics here, it's just good old-fashioned revenge. There's no Pentagon, it's just you and me.
It doesn't matter how far you run. There are some demons you just can't escape.
They killed my son. You know me. I am what I am, and I'm not going to change now. But I will kill all of you.
It's not what you did, son. It's who you did it to.
Nobody?
That nobody is John Wick.
I was 9 when my parents were killed. I will not stop until you feel what I felt all these years.
Sensei, you must stop Shredder. Together, you are stronger than he can ever be. Let's go save my brothers.
Those in the entertainment industry are also encouraging a generation to reject the Bible and trust in their own heart.
I like messing with Christians, man. Because they easy to get. You can get on their skin quick, you know. God didn't write no book. It's written in your essence. Nobody ever had to tell you it's wrong to kill your mama. Somehow you born innately knowing that. Which means you born knowing right and wrong. So put the book down. You understand me?
What is the Matrix? It is the world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth. You are a slave born into a prison for your mind.
I'm going to show them a world without you. A world without rules and controls, without borders or boundaries. A world where anything is possible. Where we go from there is a choice I leave to you.
Flick of a switch, we can adjust character, change personality.
And that is exactly what modern entertainment is successfully doing. For this current generation are into secret societies and are fascinated with hand signs and secret symbols, not realizing that these hand signs can be traced to a pagan Tibetan deity in the British Museum. But people follow the ideologies of secret societies without being in the least aware of it. And Manly Palmer Hall, the esoteric scholar and Freemason, is clear that self-worship is the key to the teachings of the secret societies or the mysteries. The mysteries, he said, were therefore established for the purpose of unfolding the nature of man according to certain fixed rules which, when faithfully followed, elevated the human consciousness to a point where it was capable of cognizing its own constitution and the true purpose of existence. All these New Age fads like Scientology all teach the same thing. Tom Cruise is its most famous spokesman and representative, but it is headed by this man, and this is what they believe. Scientology was founded in 1952 by a former science fiction writer, L. Ron Hubbard. Its core belief is that all humans are immortal beings. And what about the Kabbalah? This is a teaching that is a mixture of Babylonian and Judaistic philosophy, the danger of merging light with darkness. Manly P. Hall quotes from one of the most famous high-ranking Freemasons in history, a 33rd degree man called Albert Pike, who was also a Confederate officer during the US Civil War. He said that Albert Pike, quoting from Transcendental Magic, thus sums up the importance of Kabbalism as a key to Masonic esotericism.
Oh my God, I am heartily sorry for having offended thee, and I detest all my sins, because I dread the loss of heaven and the pain of hell, but most of all because I love thee, and I want so badly to be good.
So when you see individuals promoting the self-worship of the Kabbalah, like Madonna, it is no different than being a member of Freemasonry or any secret society. But what happens when an individual, when assessing the Ferguson riots, professes that Jesus Christ and the gospel is the only way to deal with world issues? The presenter on CNN not only gets agitated when you watch her carefully, but CNN cuts him off. They fear the name of Jesus.
In the 60 seconds I have remaining with you, sir, to ask you, we talk so much about this on a macro level. How about on a micro, on a day-to-day basis? How can we, black, white, whatever, improve this?
Well, honestly, I think I point to it in the very last paragraph that I read, and I'm encouraged because things aren't the way they used to be. We all have grandparents that told us how things were. We've all seen documentaries. We are definitely making progress, but I think on an individual, on a micro level, the issue is not really skin. The issue is sin. And I firmly believe that the issue is that internally we are flawed. Internally we need salvation from our sin. Internally our sin makes us prideful. It makes us judgmental. It makes us prejudiced, which leads to racism. It makes us lash out at people that don't look like us. It makes us look past evidence to protect people that look like us. It makes us do all those things. It makes us lash out in anger. It makes us point fingers. It makes us, our sin that's in us makes us do those things. And the only salvation for this sin is the gospel. The only way to really cure that what's on the inside is understanding that Jesus Christ died for our sins. And so to me, on a micro level, it's understanding.
Oh, and just like that, we lost him. I know, I heard you guys rapping me. I just couldn't let him go. Benjamin.
There are many who love to hear about the latest goings on in political circles and current affairs. And yes, it has its place. But the emphasis of Bible prophecy is not to focus on what the devil is doing, but to strengthen your walk with Jesus Christ. At Westminster Abbey is buried the remains of one of the most influential figures of modern times, Sir Isaac Newton, known as the greatest mind in the modern world. He is known for giving us our understanding of the laws of gravity and our understanding in modern science. But when he died, it was discovered in his personal writings that most of his personal research was on Bible prophecy. In his own words, he said, "The revelation of Jesus Christ. The book is the unveiling which Jesus Christ gives, a revelation of which he is the author and source. It contains not an arbitrary selection of events, but an orderly and continuous narrative in symbol intended, like the visions of Daniel, to be a divine help to the church. It is a revelation, not a mystery, though in symbolical language. Such prophecies are simply history written beforehand, but in hieroglyphics or cipher, which conceal while revealing, and reveal while concealing, and which are gradually made plain as the time of their accomplishment draws near. It is intended to nerve the Lord's warriors, to arm them for the battle, and to lead them to victory. Its noble purpose is to form the characters, guide the steps, maintain the faith, and inspire the courage of those who were to witness for him, and to pass under every species of torture, and the sword, and through the flame, unto glory and immortality, to imitate and sustain the martyrs who were to share its triumphs and to wear its crowns. In the opening chapter of the book of Revelation, the church is represented symbolically as a 7-branch candlestick, which shows the church has to be a light to the world. And if it was not for the prophecy of the 2 kingdoms in the book of Revelation, then I would have no clue about the papacy and the United States and their role in world affairs and the winding down of Bible prophecy. But as we have seen the role of the entertainment industry and the media's hostility to Jesus, we have to have a character that is totally separate from the world. Richard Baxter was a 17th century English Puritan and royalist who was known for his balanced biblical approach to political and church issues. He wrote a book called The Reformed Pastor, and when reading it we will see that our character has to be different from the ideas of modern day entertainment. Richard Baxter said, "Men would sooner believe that the gospel is from heaven if they saw more effects of it upon the hearts and lives of those who profess it. The world is better able to read the nature of religion in a man's life than in the Bible." In other words, as 2 Corinthians chapter 3 and verse 2 says, "Ye are our epistles, written in our hearts, known and read of all men." So men will read your life to get a picture of what God is like. We must restore those that are overtaken in a fault in the spirit of meekness, and yet see that the sore be thoroughly searched and healed, and the joint be well set again, what pain soever it may cost. Wow. What would happen if Christians were to do that? Jesus said in John chapter 13 verses 34 and 35, "A new commandment I give unto you, that ye love one another as I have loved you, that ye also love one another. By this shall all men know that ye are my disciples, if ye have love one to another." Boy, we failed. Our work must be carried on with great humility. We must carry ourselves meekly and condescendingly to all, and so teach others as to be ready to learn of any that can teach us, and so both teach and learn at once. Humility is not a mere ornament of a Christian, but an essential part of the new creature. It is a contradiction in terms to be a Christian and not humble. Wow, that is real deep. Our very business is to teach the great lesson of humility to our people. We must study humility and preach humility and practice humility. As the Holy Scripture says when doing the work of God in Philippians chapter 2 and verse 3, "Let nothing be done through strife or vain glory," no ego tripping, "but in a lowliness in mind let each esteem other better than themselves." As Jesus comes to the very close of his intercession as our high priest, the decisions we make each day are preparing us to either have the name or character of the beast or the name or character of our Heavenly Father. The choice is yours. God will have the honor when his church is manifestly distinguished from the world.